जस हिंदी देखते हुए सारे दर्शकों को मेरी तरफ से प्यार भरी नमस्कार। आप देख रहे हैं प्रोग्राम स्ट्रेट टॉक में आपकी होस्ट आश्मिता। यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स में ऑफ कोर्स एक फेडरल इलेक्शन होने जा रहा है एंड जहां पे हम हमेशा बात करते हैं कैंडिडेट 1 एंड कैंडिडेट 2, current President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden, the candidate from a Democratic Party for the President of the United States, वहाँ पे अक्सर थर्ड पार्टी कैंडिडेट्स की भी बात होती है, जहाँ इस कंट्री में एक ऑफिशियल और लार्ज स्केल थर्ड पार्टी नहीं हम गिनते। देयर आर वेरियस थर्ड पार्टीज जो कभी कभी कोशिश करते हैं कि वो भी मेन स्ट्रीम में अपनी आवाज़ सुना सके। एंड सो टुडे आई एम वेरी एक्साइटेड टू इंट्रोड्यूस यू टू आवर गेस्ट इन स्टूडियो running as a candidate for the President of the United States from the independent side. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Brock Pierce. Once again, welcome to the studio. We're very happy to have you here, Brock. I really quickly want to tell my viewers, Mr. Pierce is a former child star. You probably know him from movies such as First Kid and Mighty Ducks too. Among other things, you transitioned from being, a prolific child star into this entrepreneur, this businessman who's found great success with cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin. And here you are today. You have a big vision for what needs to happen in this country, not just in reframing the political process as we've known it for the last 200 plus years, but also some of these big things that today are all anyone can think about and talk about, right? So once again, Brock, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. Well, we're really excited to dive into, some of the stuff you've been talking about your platform and, the nitty-gritty stuff as well as the big picture stuff, right? There's a ton of issues on the table right now. Both of the presidential candidates are covering them. They're attacking each other. But I kind of want to start with your background and your personality, because that's kind of what's driving this campaign the way we see it, right? Brock, tell us a little bit about why your background, whether it's the cryptocurrency, the child acting, has kind of uniquely prepared you to take on this endeavor today.
Well, I think the child acting helped me develop presentation skills, performance skills. But I think it's really the entrepreneurial career, that has prepared me for this, and specifically, as a small businessman or as an entrepreneur creating things out of nothing, a lot of those businesses were in the field of technology. And I believe that technology is the #1 issue going forward. Artificial intelligence and the impact it has on this nation and all of our lives going forward is going to dwarf that of automation. And technology is amoral. It's not good or bad. How we use it is what matters. And I think we need leadership that understands how to navigate the challenging and opportunistic road ahead. I mean, in the same way, would you ask your grandfather to come in and help troubleshoot your computer? I think we need leadership with real vision, a vision of the road ahead.
Right.
And so that tech background, I think, is very useful. And I've held a lot of offices and built businesses all over the world.
Okay. I mean, well, the global, experience is absolutely necessary. I mean, the world is not just increasingly globalized, but we realize with just the last few years that this country needs a global presence. So, coming back to some of the more of the issues that drive presidential campaigns, before we even get there, you're coming from the independent party, right? And once again, before I get into your specific candidacy, why do you believe that a third party needs to be bolstered now more than ever in the United States political system?
Well, there's two parts. One is systems of two, binary systems like magnets. They come together into collusion or they polarize into total division. And that's what we're seeing. We know through all of our studies of history that systems of two don't work. George Washington, at his closing address, warned us about the threat of political parties. John Adams and the other founding fathers also told us to never allow there to become two dominant political parties, yet here we are. And so I think we need to rise above partisan politics and find a path forward. And so I think if ever there was a moment that we needed, it's now. This country certainly feels very divided, whether it be between Democrat, Republican, rich, poor, black, white. I mean, we need to find unity.
Yeah.
Because we are in this together.
Right. Brock, I mean, I have to ask, right, the two-party system and its many flaws have come up often over the years. And of course, every time a presidential election is on the ballot, even more so. Why do you think in the United States, and this is just a personal opinion question, why do you think that the third party or the fourth party or the fifth party have never taken hold here? Why do you think we've been with the two-party system for our entirety?
Well, part of it is the electoral college vote and how that works. Approval or ranked choice voting would encourage more third party options because you don't pick just one, you pick multiple. And so that's part of the problem. And then also we're always threatened. We're told, oh, if you don't vote for the Democrat or the Republican, you're supporting the other side. It's like saying, I don't eat fast food, right? But your choices are McDonald's or Burger King. But if you want to vote for a third party, you're supporting McDonald's or you're supporting, we're just always told not this election, the next one. But we can't keep doing that. We have to start thinking for ourselves, choosing for ourselves, doing what feels right for us. If we want a different future, we need to make different choices. Albert Einstein is credited with this quote of insanity being the definition of repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
You know, we keep going left, we keep going right, we keep going left, and we're not getting different results. It's time for some real change. The future is going to happen to us or it's going to happen with us. Let's create a future that we all want to live in. And it's like time for some big changes, time for some radical changes because the road ahead does not look good. I think we're doomed if we don't do something different.
Well, different is the name of the game, as you said. We're going to stop for a quick break here. आप कहीं ना जाइए, conversation बिल्कुल ऐसे ही जारी रहेगी break के उस पार. ब्रेक के बाद आपका स्वागत है. आप देख रहे हैं प्रोग्राम स्ट्रेट टॉक एंड बात हो रही है with another presidential candidate, Mr. Brock Pierce, once again joining us in the studio. Welcome back. Brock, you were telling us a little bit about the why. And the why for you is not just to be another presidential candidate, but to uplift a potential third party, which in this country has been almost impossible. We've seen certain people come close over the years in these races where the goal is to uplift the party more so than actually win the election. And they've gotten quite far. But you actually have certain official measures. You've taken official endorsements. And I want to talk about those. So your campaign is officially launched. Tell us about what actual endorsements are on the table right now.
So I've been endorsed, along with my vice presidential running mate, Carla Ballard, by the Independence Party of New York. Officially endorsed. We are on the ballot in New York. And so spending a lot of time here as a result of that. I'm off to Minnesota next, where we have some big news. And we're running around the country. This is a very serious campaign. We are laying the groundwork, not just for this election, but 2022, 2024, and so on. And this is not just about me. We are creating a movement, not to create a third party, to create a third major party. That has never happened before. And in this election, we are doing everything we can to win one or more states. No independent candidate has ever won a state before.
Wow.
If we do that, we make history. Also, the way that our election process works, the electoral college vote, to win in the general election, someone has to win a majority of the electoral college vote. Keyword being majority, meaning in a two-party race, if there was a tie, no one wins. This happened in the year 1800, Thomas Jefferson versus Aaron Burr. My vice presidential running mate is a descendant of Aaron Burr.
Oh, wow.
Also, if a third party candidate like ourselves were to win one state or three, it becomes likely that no one wins the election. Then it's kicked to the House of Representatives, and every time this has happened historically, every time, they've always chosen the third place candidate to be president.
Wow.
Albeit it's only happened once,
Right.
the year 1824, which it's interesting, there was only one major political party in 1824. It was called the Democratic Republican Party.
Right.
Before the party split in two.
Yep.
The left and right wing of the same bird.
So you know, this is very interesting, you know, and I'm sure our viewers appreciate not just, you know, learning about your strategy a little bit and getting to know your mindset, but also some U.S. history along the process, right? So, you know, we're talking about, once again, I think the word that you used here is major third party, which is really the challenge, right? So you have this long-term plan, 2020, 2022, 2024, but you have an actual strategy that could potentially get you in the White House in 2021 January when that oath of office is taken, right?
Obviously, and the political experts are like, how did you come up with this? I'm like, yeah, I'm a systems designer.
So this systems design, right? So I kind of want to start talking about that, right? You know, you have this plan that you want to hold our government accountable by actual measures that would incentivize people positively, right? And this is part of your strategy that you think will actually not just possibly get you in the White House, but also revamp or, you know, basically give the United States a systems upgrade if we were talking about it, right? So tell us a little bit. First, I want to hear about this roadmap where, you know, if you can just win a couple of states, or like you said, 3 states, right? What that entails, and if you can share the secret sauce, what states are we talking about?
Well, so Brittany Kaiser is our campaign manager. You should go see a movie. It's on Netflix called The Great Hack. And so this is how data was used in Facebook. She's the whistleblower. This is one of the most important political movies right now. And so, you know, we're technology people.
Okay.
So we make data-driven decisions, and so we're going through and analyzing the data and narrowing down which states we're operating in. I think, well, we're listed, at least by the recent media in the last week, said we're on more ballots than I think any other third-party candidate. I'm quoting the press. I'm not following that personally. But, yeah, very excited by that strategy, and it is viable. It may not be likely, but it's possible. Every political strategist on both sides are just like, whoa, like, this is crazy. Like, how did you figure this out? And again, I'm a systems designer, so I look at problems, and I don't just look at the symptoms. Like, as a tree, the symptoms would be the leaves. I go through the branches, I work my way to the trunk, and eventually I get to the root, you know, of a system. And so I take a look at our country right now, and how does our government, and how do we measure success, right? We generally measure success historically by growth, or GDP, gross domestic product. The problem with growth as a unit of measurement is we don't differentiate, we don't distinguish between positive and negative growth. And so if you don't distinguish that, you're going to get both things equally or maybe even more negative growth. It's why, you know, we end up with the air, polluting our air, polluting our water, polluting our earth. You know, forest fires in California create growth. Hurricanes in the Gulf of Mexico create growth. You know, people getting sick and needing, you know, more pharmaceutical treatment and not cures. These things are all good when you're not distinguishing, you know, when all you're measuring is growth. And so one thing would be good is to distinguish that, but I have another idea. And these are like, yeah, civilization, systems redesign. How do we upgrade our country? And I think we should be judging our government. We should be holding our government to account based upon 3 other metrics. Our founding fathers liked this term, this very important phrase, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What if we started to measure our government's success by life? You know, by life expectancy. I mean, you'd start to see our air would get cleaner quickly, our water would get cleaner, our earth would get cleaner, our food would become healthier, our pharmaceutical industry would be curing us and less treating us.
The whole healthcare system would be
the whole
impacted.
healthcare, FDA, we'd literally see a complete systems upgrade if we started to measure by life expectancy. Also, what about liberty? We're supposed to be the land of the free. What if we measured our government's success by our freedom, by our liberty? We'd start to look at the justice system very differently. We'd start saying, you know, should we be locking people up in victimless crimes? We'd take another look at things like the war on drugs and say, is this working? You know, if someone has a drug addiction problem and is only harming themselves, I think that's probably a mental health issue or a social issue. And all that money going to the war on drugs could be reallocated to things like human trafficking that barely gets any funding.
Absolutely.
You know, like we'd start looking at everything differently. For-profit prisons would probably go away immediately. You know, measuring our government's success by our freedom, but justice, right? A justice score. All of those things matter.
Right.
And then the last one, the pursuit of happiness. The government of Bhutan uses this thing called GNH, or gross national happiness.
Yes.
The government of Bhutan is measured by the happiness of their people.
Wow.
So the pursuit of happiness. But we also, in that pursuit of happiness, I believe we have to solve for one of the major problems we have in this country right now, which is the great wealth divide. I do think we need something like a universal earned income.
Okay.
We need to make sure that every American's basic needs are met, that no one is starving to death, that everyone has some form of shelter and has access to some type of universal health care, that everybody has access to these things. Because we have our values, we have our principles, but when our back is against the wall, when we feel desperate, when survival instincts kick in, survival takes precedent over values. And a lot of what we're seeing right now is people feeling desperate. And if we want to find a path forward that doesn't end in violence, we have to make sure that desperation, we're getting out of this desperate place where people feel they are.
Absolutely.
And we are blessed with enough abundance in this country. There are ways to do systems design that won't even cost us more than what we're currently spending.
Right. Brock, in our pre-interview, you described yourself as removed from the status quo, and I think you kind of just hinted at that by saying that you want to hold government accountable, because we don't get to see a lot of that, at least not these days. So once again, Brock Pierce joining us. Don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. ब्रेक के बाद आपका स्वागत है। आप देख रहे हैं स्ट्रेट टॉक एक बार फिर, जहां पे हम प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप, कैंडिडेट जो बाइडेन की बात करते हैं, वहां पे ज़रूरी बन जाता है कि जो और डिफरेंट थर्ड पार्टी कैंडिडेट्स उभर के आ रहे हैं उनके साथ भी आपको राब्ता कायम कराना हमारी ऑब्लिगेशन बनती है। सो हियर वी आर इन आवर स्टूडियोज, इज जॉइनिंग अस वंस अगेन मिस्टर ब्रॉक पियर्स, candidate for President of the United States, former child actor, entrepreneur, technology guy. You told me a lot about how you want to use your background, your experience with cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and essentially being a systems guy to give the United States, an OS upgrade, essentially, right? So here we are. We've talked about some of the big picture visionary stuff, which is really important when folks are getting to know, where you're coming from. But at the end of the day, everyone wants to hear, any potential leader that they're putting in public office, what your thoughts are on some of these day-to-day big issues. And, unfortunately today in America, that's a very long list. There's a lot of day-to-day issues that people are concerned about. So they want to hear, specifically if we're talking about the South Asian community, right? This community is made up of a predominance of entrepreneurs, for example. You said this to me before, a lot of small business owners, they go from small business to oftentimes pretty large, medium-sized to even large-scale corporations. So when it comes to business, the two-party system kind of takes two pretty obvious approaches. On the liberal side, it's a regulation. On the conservative side, it's deregulation to let business thrive. Where do you stand on that?
Well, as a small business presidential candidate, I'm here to support small business. Take the recent stimulus checks, for example. A lot of money went to big business. I would have preferred to see most of that money go to small business as well as the American people. I have so much sympathy for the small business operators during COVID. I mean, the Walmarts, the Costcos, they're all open. The Amazons are thriving, but our small businesses are dying. Yeah. It's really sad to see that happening right now. As a small business entrepreneur, I think it's safe to say that I would be doing everything in my power to support small business. I believe this country was built by entrepreneurs and innovators as well as hardworking Americans. And I believe the only way we're going to get out of the mess we're in, again, is with innovation, new solutions to current problems. So I believe that entrepreneurs, innovators, and hardworking Americans are the solution to our problems.
You said this country was built by entrepreneurs. Another really hot ticket issue, and this goes way beyond this election, but when it comes to the country's history, current makeup and future makeup, immigration, right? Another, like I said, really big issue, not just for our viewer base, our community, but the country in general. What do you think needs to change about the immigration policy in this country from where it is today and how it should be ideally?
Well, I feel like we have a reverse brain drain happening to some extent. America was built by immigrants, unless you're Native American.
Right.
We all came from somewhere, and I think we need to honor that past and remember who we are, where we came from, how we got here, right? Know what we stand for. And so I think that we need sound, legal immigration. If intelligent, competent, capable people want to come and work in this country, let's be inviting that in. I've benefited greatly as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, in hiring, immigrants. But it's a legal process, and I think that we should be welcoming and probably looking much more like Canada.
Oh, yeah.
I think Canada is doing it right. I feel like we are not getting it right, and I think it's at the detriment of our future.
Right. Well, interesting. That's an interesting comparison. Brock, once again, this is an issue that has emerged as being one of these hot topic issues as of late. Of course, there was undercurrents of problems in this sector, but this year, it seems like someone lit the spark fuse, right? And of course, I'm talking about law enforcement. This country is probably, that's one of the things that we are most divided on as a country today, right? Whether it's, a Black Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter, right? Defund the police or, reinvest some of those fundings. So when it comes to law enforcement, where do you stand?
Well, I believe in law and order. I believe that law and order is the foundation of any well-functioning society. And so I don't think the answer is to shut down the police. I don't think the answer is to defund the police, but we clearly need reform. We have seen time and time again injustice. So how do we make sure that our law enforcement is enabling a just, country for all? And so there is reform. There's no question we need to look at potentially longer training, regular training. Maybe it's similar to like what we do with our teachers. They take, the summer off, and how do we keep reskilling them and making sure that they're up to speed on best practices? There's an issue. We have a problem. Things are not functioning as they should, but the answer isn't to shut down the police.
Right.
The answer is to upgrade that operating system. Like everything else, I think this country needs an operating system upgrade. It's kind of across the board. You could double click on essentially any aspect of our government, and there's tremendous room for improvement.
Right.
And that's we should look at ourselves the same way. We only have the power to change ourselves. How do we become our best selves? And then through being our best selves, we have the ability to inspire others to be more, and collectively as we improve, the nation will.
Well, I really want to know, once again, what you want our viewers to know about this, because this kind of a mindset, this vision that you're laying out for us, it seems to extend beyond just you, for a total system upgrade. You kind of need a willing system that is looking to upgrade, and we need to get the people behind this idea if it's going to be successful. And by idea, I mean this major third party, right? I want to talk a little bit about what it is that folks need to do, what they need to be paying attention to, not just that party A and B, but potentially C. We're going to stop for another quick break here. आप कहीं ना जाएं, मिलते हैं ब्रेक के उस बाद। ब्रेक के बाद एक बार फिर आपका स्वागत। प्रोग्राम स्ट्रेट टॉक में बात हो रही है थर्ड पार्टी कैंडिडेट मिस्टर ब्रॉक पियर्स के साथ, जो रन करें फॉर प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ द यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स। Brock, you told us a little bit about high picture stuff, nitty gritty stuff, where you're coming from, and ideally where you hope to be, not just in this race, but in up and coming races. There's even rumors that in New York you may have some local dreams that may come next after this campaign, right? So we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but I really want to know, there's often this messaging that comes out usually from the two major parties, that when it comes to a presidential election, a third party candidate it is pulling away from deciding the election, that it's not like they're ever going to win, right? So if you're voting for third party, don't do that. Pick the party, pick your candidate, and cast your ballot in one of the two major parties. Of course, you are coming from outside of the system, and you are actively looking to break the chain of these two parties. How do you respond to that?
Well, it's in their selfish, interest to tell you to never vote other than for the two major parties, and to do so is to throw your vote away. It's simply not true. We should do what we feel is right, right? Trust your gut, you know, feel, you know, and go do whatever you think is right. Vote for the candidate that you think is going to serve us best. We're never going to get change unless we stand up for what we believe in. You know, so that's all I can say is do what you think is right for you. And that should make sense, like common sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Brock,
that's how we get change. We're not, it's not going to change until we start to do something differently.
absolutely. So when it comes to doing something differently, right? So the third party candidate, you know, is something people are vaguely familiar with, especially when it comes to a presidential election, but they may not, you know, have the full picture. And this year things are a little different because of COVID and these absentee and mail-in ballots, right? So if someone wants to, you know, align themselves with you, learn more about you, your platform, your policies, and then potentially maybe cast a vote in your favor. What is it that they need to know logistically?
Well, it depends on, you know, first of all, make sure you're registered to vote. And we hope that, you know, call it with our youthfulness, right? And our technology sort of visionary leadership, that we will also engage with the youth in a big way. A lot of Generation Z right now is just not like
Motivated.
not motivated by their current options. And so we hope to drive major new voter engagement. Remember, 40% of the people that are eligible to vote in this country don't. That is the silent, you know, sort of majority.
Yeah.
When the silent majority wakes up to the power they have, this whole game changes. So I strongly encourage everyone to register to vote. Remember, the future is going to happen to you or with you. So let's together create the future we all want to live in. You can come to our website, brock.vote. We're providing content, educational information, trying to help you understand, but it depends on what state you're in.
Right.
Right? So here in New York, we're on the ballot.
Okay.
That will be very easy. We're going to be in a lot of ballots, but the website will show you, and we'll also tell you what states, you know, where we're a write-in.
Okay.
And so, and really this is, we believe that the world is changing, that we're leaving this era of, you know, our government and political parties talking down to us and telling us what to do and sometimes even what to think, to this collaborative era, this, you know, this age of participation. And so I encourage you to come join us and be part of the discussion as we co-create this future together.
Right. I think, Brock, some of the ideas that you, you know, really are trying to put on the map, they did try to come forth in the major party system and failed. I mean, universal income, for example, you know, Andrew Yang was a big proponent, and it didn't really get far. And like you said, the current circumstances could have really made a difference for a lot of people. You know, I also want to, unfortunately we don't have a lot of time left, but I want to call attention to the fact that you're wearing that hat, right? So normally presidential candidates don't wear hats, but something has changed, and so you're riding the wave. So tell us why you're wearing a hat today.
Well, this is from an artist who just made a first batch of hats, and this is the B for our campaign's logo.
Okay.
And it's red, white, and blue, and yes, presidential candidates can wear baseball caps now. And you know, and I also think that this is one of the positive things, right? It's authentic. We're actually starting to, you know, pierce the veil. And we're starting
Pun intended.
Pun intended. We are starting to see, like, our candidates, who they really are. And I think that's what we want, you know, as voters. We want to see who are we voting for. And I mean, that's one of the things too about everything I say, I'm speaking my truth. I'm not part of one of the two existing political parties that have an entire ideology, that have an entire platform, where they probably don't want their candidates to have any original thoughts. You know, they prefer the less opinion you have, and the more you are willing just to do what the political party wants, the better. I believe that, like, let's start getting some real independent thinking and, you know, vote for candidates, not parties, so that you're really seeing what that person thinks. What you see with me is what you get. I say what I mean, I do what I say, you know, something that's just kind of old-fashioned. I believe in things like the golden rule. You'll never see me speak negatively of the other candidates, never identified by individuals. I'll speak negatively about problems in the country and and deliver solutions. You know, I might talk about problems with systems, but you'll never see me speak negatively, because that's not what real leadership is. Leadership is vision, you know, inspiring, educating, informing, presenting solutions to problems. These are the, how do we want to raise our kids?
Yeah.
What do we want, you know, what do we want to teach them?
Yeah.
And I think there is a way to do this positively. Historically, we've seen lots of great leaders do it this way.
Yeah. Last question, and this is a fun one. You know, I'm sure every presidential candidate gets asked this probably a million times, so I'd love to take a stab at it with you. If you get elected to be president of the United States, what is the first thing you do when you get into office?
The first thing is pardoning every person in our criminal justice system for cannabis solely related crimes, as well as expunge their records. You know, that train has left the station. Cannabis saved my mother's life. She was had a back injury, was caught up in the opioid epidemic, taking prescription pills, not realizing how harmful these were to her and how addictive they are. And I think we've passed that point. I think that, you know, let's stop harming people for cannabis. Let's let them out of jail. Let's expunge their record and give them their lives an opportunity back. That's the first thing on day one after praying.
Of course.
And expressing my gratitude and saying, please help me, because we need
There's
a lot of help.
a lot of work to do. Absolutely agree. Mr. Brock Pierce, candidate for President of the United States. You have some official endorsements on board. We look forward to seeing how this campaign plays out, and especially your main goal here of making the third party a major third party in this country. So we wish you all the best. Thank you so much for joining us. Any closing messages for our viewers before we go?
Yeah, Brock the Vote. You can learn more at brock.vote. So grateful for the opportunity to connect with everyone here today. And I hope to be back and talk to you again soon. And you can find me, we're responsive on all social media. You know, I believe that our political candidates should be available to connect with the people. And so let us know what you think. Let us know what questions you have. I'm here to work with you.
Wonderful.
For you.
Good to have you again. Wish you all the best of luck. मैं बाकी व्यूअर्स से कहना चाहती हूँ, आप हमारे लिए इस प्रोग्राम को लेके any questions, comments, concerns ज़रूर हमें लिख सकते हैं. info@justbroadcasting.com, aashmeeta@justbroadcasting.com. और मुझे दिए इजाज़त. नमस्कार.